If you're interested in joining the games industry, you need to know what different roles do within a game studio. Today, we're going to break that down. So at many game studios, there are a division of 4 teams which work together. There is a production team, an art team, a design team, and an engineering team. And within each of these, there are a variety of different roles of people who perform different responsibilities. So let's start with the production team. The production team is the group that is supposed to scope the project, calendar the project, and really facilitate the collaboration of the other 3 teams, art, design, and engineering. It's the production team's jobs to get the right people tasked to do the right things and to use everyone's skills to the best of their advantage to make sure that tasks are being done according to schedule. So the production team, they coordinate conversations, they calendar events, they assess and sort of calendar out the scope of different things that have to be done to achieve, the end product. And they're really important to really keeping the show on the road. So let's jump to the design team. So game design it encompasses everything that is the who, what, where, when, and why. They say what you do, why you do it, and they create, everything from mission design to narrative design to, the core game loops of why do you do something and how do you develop your character in a game. So we'll start at the top. We'll start here actually with a game designer. So a game designer really is the person who they say, why do you do this? Why am I playing this game? So in a game, for instance, like Fallout, they say, why do you as a player want to upgrade your weapons? Why do you as a player want to explore? Why do you want to, trade and sell items? They create the loops that make the game engaging and repeatable and make it fun to play and give the player a reason to continue through to the end. A level designer is someone who designs, the sort of 3D space, and they create, the base of the level and why do you move? Like what are the lines of sight? What are the views that I get as I, enter an area? How do I communicate ideas, of directionality and where am I supposed to go, and making it that a level feels good to move through. And so they're going to work a lot of time with sort of environment artists to combine their ideas with art. But, the level designer is someone that sort of facilitates the way that players move through a world. A narrative designer is someone who takes the key framework of lore and story and creates a story that is cohesive for players to experience. And so this is really important because they'll work on things from scripts to character backgrounds to, bios of storylines of people in the game. And it's really important. It is the story of the game. They create the true story of the game. A technical designer is someone who is a sort of often a design generalist. They work alongside many groups, sometimes fusing instances of animation and creating systems and working across disciplines of art, engineering, and design to fuse many of the ideas together that might be a system designed, by an economy designer with a piece of art or animation asset, created by an artist that might need to be, worked with some sort of system designed by engineering. So they meet everyone halfway and sort of do, wear many hats. A UI designer is someone who designs, UI workflows and menus and, is the one who shows how iconography and all these different things, really come together to communicate ideas clearly and creates the sort of UI UX of why different menus need to be accessed in different ways and how to best and simply communicate ideas with UI. The combat designer is someone who, designs engaging combat experiences, talks about, the core pillars of combat in the game, and they sort of can implement systems and, work often with animators to implement the design of combat and make engaging combat, sword fighting and monsters and, you name it, they're designing it if it's something you're fighting in a game. And then down here we have, last but not least, encounter and mission designers. So narrative designers sort of describe a storyline, but infusing those elements into a way that, you as a player can really move through a world, feel like you're accomplishing different tasks, to achieve an end goal. That's what an encounter or mission designer does. They break down any chunk of a game and then really make it, use the tools and, create a way for you to, take the story and really live it out through the core loops of the gameplay. So next, let's talk about art. So art, again, there's many different types of art that go into a game, and these are not even all of them. These lists are not exhaustive. So what does a concept artist do? Concept artist is typically a 2D artist that will create paintovers and create pieces of art that are meant to inspire the environment artists, the character artists, and the animators to, they are the storyboard artists that creates, the what. They are the ones who, like, their work will dictate what, props look like, what characters look like. So they draft, the initial images and concepts of, what is this world or experience supposed to look like? And so then an environment artist is someone who takes those things, say a concept artist creates a 2D image of a landscape. The environment artist will create those mountains and create those trees often and create, assemble these pieces to, resemble the world that has been created by a concept artist. So they are the ones who build the assets that make up the world, the walls, the houses, the trees, the wreckage, the props, they create 3D assets, and this can be broken down even further. But they create the assets that make up the world. A character artist is someone who, similar to an environment artist, but obviously they're creating characters. Character artists typically work in things, like ZBrush or Maya, and they will create the models of these characters, sometimes texture them. Often there are either like a technical artist or a rigger will create a rig, a skeleton for the characters. So sometimes these responsibilities are separated. But the character artist will take concept art and they will create 3D meshes of characters to be used in the game. An animator then is responsible for taking these character meshes. These could be animals. These could be objects like vehicles. Vehicles require animation. These could be, just 2D biped characters like humans. Anything that needs animation is animated by an animator. Often, Maya is really often the standard for animation these days, but people use Blender. There's a variety of different applications you can use. But an animator, they animate 3D assets. We're going to go to a material artist. So a material artist is someone who creates materials. Sometimes this means they're doing the actual work in something like Substance Painter or Substance Designer to create either unique or tileable materials to be used in a game world. So tileable are things like, if you have dirt on the ground that you want to look seamless as it, rolls on and on into the horizon, needs to be, something that's tileable, maybe procedural, but something that, there's world tileables for wood and stone and water. And there's all these different materials that exist in a game world. Someone's got to make them. There's also artists that are created by an environment artist or a character artist are then sometimes painted by another group. So using a software like Substance Painter, a material artist is going to create a unique material after it is unwrapped in a 3D software, and they'll do what's called a 3D paint of the asset to create a unique material for that asset. But again, sometimes those responsibilities are shared by the character or environment artists. And then I guess technical artist appears twice, so we'll just look at this one. Technical artist is something like a VFX artist, so they do advanced material effects, they do particle systems, simulation, physics sim. These are things, like Houdini. And they are the people that create effects, but also optimize other advanced art processes. So things like crowds, things like Niagara systems in Unreal Engine. There's all these different things, advanced material effects, lighting. These are all things that fall into a technical artist's expertise, and they're responsible for making sure that all game art is performant. Next, let's talk about engineering. So if we jump up here to engineering, we're going to see, these are a lot of different types of programmers. And oftentimes programmers, is equal to engineers. It's the terms are used interchangeably, but a programmer, we'll start, with an engine programmer. So an engine programmer is someone who is going to be building sort of core features, new and proprietary potentially features into the game engine, working with the game code to make sure that it is doing the things that you need to do. And they're, really just important to making sure all of the tools you need, all of the elements that maybe you need to do custom as a studio for whatever reason, are working in the engine. They're going to deal with things like performance and making sure the engine really is just doing what it's supposed to be. So then an AI programmer is someone who is going to build systems for NPCs, whether this be to support combat, to support dialogue, to support cinematics. They're going to be using the assets for these animated NPCs, or we'll say NPCs in this situation, to accomplish certain things that are part of the design spec. So these, again, oftentimes, this could be combat or crowd simulation. They will create systems which can be manipulated to make AI characters do many different things in their response to the player's actions. So what does a shader programmer do? A lot of times, shader programmers kind of get that. Oftentimes is really handled by a technical artist. A lot of times technical artists might know code using coding languages to code efficient shaders. So we'll keep that one in art for now. There's kind of like a secondary technical artist down here. And then what does a build engineer do? A build engineer who is someone who is responsible for really maintaining the software. Sometimes, there's often similarities between an engine programmer and a build engineer, but the build engineer is really someone who's responsible for, figuring out when the software isn't doing things it's supposed to be doing, going into code and figuring out core inefficiencies and working on those to optimize the project. And then it's always important to talk about QA. So all three of these other groups are really creating the content that's going to go into the game as a whole. And QA is responsible, that's quality assurance, for making sure things are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So oftentimes, if a game runs by a script or there's series of objectives or behaviors that are expected, an animation is supposed to look a certain way. A material is supposed to look a certain way. And there's often, bugs in software development, and QA is going to call those out and, basically keep the team accountable for making sure things work the way they're supposed to be working. So all of these together really create a cohesive game studio. All three of these elements, all three of these teams really need to come together, work together, communicate to get all of these different systems working in line with each other. And, at a glance, that is how different roles contribute to a game studio. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any thoughts, questions, please leave a note in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation about what's on your mind in the game industry. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and follow for more Unreal Engine 5 and game industry content. Thanks all.